Okay, is green on?
Yes.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Now that's Steve. Steve needs to sign that. Okay. There she is.
Yeah, I hope. Oh, there we go.
We're glad you're still with us.
Where was I gonna go?
Yeah.
Hi, Renee.
Hi, how are you? Everybody's picking their cookie early, is that the plan?
You have to get here early to get.
The right
Okay.
To get the good flavor.
Troy got second first. Did Troy tell you he got second?
Okay, we need to go ahead and get started, and we've got 5 of us, so. Let Renee get her. And then we'll go ahead.
I'm following your lead.
And getting chocolate.
Gosh, Rob's not here tonight. That's unusual. He must be on vacation.
Or Mike.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Okay. I'd like to welcome you to our Planning Commission meeting this evening. This is Planning Commission meeting for July 12th, 2022. This meeting is being recorded. We're going to begin with an opening prayer by Commissioner Johnson, and then we'll have a Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Showers.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity we have to meet together as citizens and of this great city. We're grateful for the opportunity we have to serve and to look out for the best interests of those who live here and those who work here. We're grateful for the circumstances that we're able to live under, of freedom. We ask that it please bless us this night, that we can make wise decisions. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. There's Rob.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey there. Okay, we're going to begin with an audible roll call of the commissioners. Sharon Call, here. Mike Marchbanks hasn't come yet, at least. Jared Showers.
here.
Rob Callis.
Here.
Stephen Johnson.
Here.
Scott Thompson.
Here.
And Renee Tribe.
Here.
Okay. Okay, and commissioners have received the minutes from this last meeting. That meeting was on June 28th. And have had a chance to review those. I think there were just 4 of you here at that meeting.
Yeah.
So-
I have one small correction is all.
Okay,
On the first page, line 31, it says Chairperson Call, and she wasn't here. It should just be Vice Chair Johnson.
no, I
That's-
wasn't.
That's
Good
the only
catch.
catch I saw. You got it everywhere else.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay. And any other corrections or changes for those of you that were here? Okay,
That was the only one I saw.
okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes as modified.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. Okay, the next item on our agenda, this is a time for public comment. This would be for any items that are not already on the agenda for this evening. And are you here for that purpose? I'm assuming you're here for the agenda item. Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead. Our first item on the agenda, this is item number 4, it's a minor subdivision for RAI, Plat A. Our applicant is Joe Kester. Is that, okay. And you're welcome to come up in front. If all of you want to come, that's okay.
I read my staff report, and it's pretty concise, clear.
Okay. Okay, all right. And our presenting staff is Mary Barnes, and we'll let you go ahead.
Well, you know what? I need a microphone as well. All right, so this application is for a 3-lot minor subdivision. Therefore, the Planning Commission is the final land use authority on this application. Subdivision is within the LVC zone, the Lindon Village Commercial Zone. It's along the north side of the 700 North Corridor, closer to the 1700 West. Here it is. The property is owned by the RAI Corporation, and this is one of the first steps in the eventual development of this corridor. And this parcel is currently a vacant lot. So on the plat, there are these 3 lots, and they all meet the minimum lot size requirements. There are PUEs along the property lines, a 20-foot drainage easement coming down Lot 1, and these cross-access areas that are outlined as well. So the LVC zone does require transportation networks to be interconnected, and that includes interconnected with pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicle uses. So these cross-access areas are intended to provide for that kind of access. However, it's also been added to your conditions of approval to ensure any improvements to the cross-access areas will be, any further improvements to the cross-access areas will be added to your plat. So that can be seen right here. The cross-access easements will be noted on the plat, and then additionally networks should be provide multiple routes to and from destinations, etc. So just as a reminder, this is not a site plan application. This is a minor subdivision application, but there is this site plan attached to your staff report. It's a concept plan. So I wanted to quickly explain this just briefly. Like I said, it's not a site plan. It's a subdivision, but I'll just briefly explain this plan. So the LVC zone does require a concept plan in conjunction with the eventual site plan applications to show the different districts and how they'll be connected through landscaping, access, and development. And that's what this is. This is the LVC district plan found in the zoning code. So these mentioned districts, yeah, so they're here, and then the intention behind this district plan requirement is to ensure development is cohesive and flows together really well, because this is one of the last commercial corridors for our city, and also is a gateway to our city. So tonight's concept plan is an example of a district plan. It's not completely accurate. It doesn't meet city code or development standards quite yet. But it's just, like I said, it's an example. I believe that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this building here, the 25,000 square foot building, will be a training facility. This, according to my knowledge, training facility. Obviously there's some office here and an office retail building with some storage out the back as well, with possibly some various retail uses on the bottom.
You have some retail in that building. Mike brought that up a minute ago. And the future segment in the back will be a small 3 or 4 retail outlet building. You'll either have 3 retail outlets or 4. Not 100% sure on that. But there will be some retail in the back on that particular site.
That's great. And it looks like pickleball courts, which is pretty awesome.
They have some people there. Every gym, training facility.
Mike, why don't you just come up to the microphone?
Oh, okay.
You have to turn it on right there at the button.
I thought it was loud enough.
Well, we have a lot of viewers online,
Oh, you
so
do?
that makes a difference for them.
I promise I won't try to sing. Okay, so it's that's more of a high-end training facility, training room. It's not your typical Vasa or Gold's Gym type facility. They do more of a cross-training, high-end. Their memberships are not $10 a month. They're anywhere from 90 on up, depending upon what level of training the individual wants to do there. I mistook what they were originally planning for something else, and then they talked to me for a while about it, and I did some reading online, but it's a much nicer facility than just your typical gym. Along with those gyms, they generally will have, you know, health food outlets, farm-to-table groups that will come to the area as far as restaurants and things like that. It'll be a nice draw for what the Evergreen Group, which has the southern side of 700 North under contract. So everything we do here will hopefully add to what they can bring to the table on the south side as well. And then, of course, these gentlemen here that are with me tonight, they are the people that are doing the Class A office building or buildings, depending upon what the city's willing to allow them to do. They're thinking more of a 5-story building, which would allow them maybe some more versatility for some of the other ideas, and we'll talk to Mike more about that in the future. And then, of course, this is...
If you could just mention on the microphone, if it works better with the city, if we could do a larger footprint and taller, just one building instead of two.
Yeah, they would do one building instead of two, which is, what you know, right now they've got the idea for 2 buildings, both 2 stories, with a parking in the middle. If they did a single building, it would be one 5-story building, which is obviously, you know, 10,000 square foot larger than what currently is planned, which will put more bodies on the site as well. It'll put, you know, and they have a lot of different ideas as far as their concept's more the mainstream with, you know, racquetball courts, pickleball courts and things like that for their employees. So, you know, I'm just thinking they're gonna work up a nice.
Right now, the concept is what, the two-story?
Well, they've got 2 concepts, actually. That one shows the 2 buildings, but they've got the one concept, which I actually like better. I think it gives a little bit more depth to the property as well. It makes it more noticeable. A 2-story building is just not gonna grab a lot of attention, but a 5-story building, I mean, think about University Plaza. When they built that building on the corner, who drives by there and doesn't look at that building? In fact, I'm sure it's caused a few accidents. And now they've got the other one in the back that's, why did we have somebody here that? But yeah, I mean, you think about that, I mean, it's a beautiful development. You know, some cities like that, some cities don't, but I mean, for this particular piece right here on this location, it's gonna add a lot of interest and it's gonna be talked about by a lot of people. So I love their idea of doing a tall building in there. I think that's, you know, very contemporary for what we're seeing on the market right now. And then, of course, the last group over on the right there, that's Everlights. They're retail. They do a lot of the installation of their own products and things like that. Soffit lighting for homes and things like that, but there's a lot more to their program other than that. They'll do outdoor lighting around pools and patios and building or commercial lighting for businesses, for outdoor dining. And I mean, there's a whole gamut of what they do. And all that is retail function as well.
Just a quick question, what's retail or with Everlights, would this become their point of sale for all their shipping and everything?
That would most likely become the point of sale for whatever comes out of that building. I know they have other buildings.
Just like their showroom?
They do have a showroom and they do have some retail. Mike
I
probably
think
knows.
they've told us they've got 3 or 4 other buildings surrounding, you know, in the surrounding communities. They want to consolidate everything to one site.
So, just for sales tax dollars, right, if it's point of sale, everything in Utah would then be generated for Lindon sales tax is the question there.
It should come, all the sales tax, because I've got the same questions coming out of a site that we're dealing with down in Springville. And anything that's sold out of that building, the sales tax are generated from that building as the origination.
Right.
Now, rentals are a different story, but they're not doing rentals.
Right.
So,
No, I'm familiar with the company, so that's.
yeah. And they do have I ran into one of their buildings down in Springville when I'm doing some research down there. So obviously they're gonna probably pull some of that stuff out of Springville and some of the other areas and just do everything right here. I have a couple people looking at Lot 4 and a couple people looking at Lot 5. We'll get to those when we get a little bit closer. We do have a letter of intent from the people from Lot 4, and we're just trying to iron out some details. 5, I expect one this week from that group. Unfortunately, their agent's out of town, so I think that's slowing
them down a little bit. And we did go under contract on the eastern 12 acres. So you'll probably be seeing something from them soon. And of course, we'll do a subdivision for those lots when the time comes for that. So, any questions for me?
Yeah, so out of these, buildings, as described here, whether it be the 2 buildings or the 1-story, what amount of employees would you think employees would be in these buildings?
That's Jack, what do you expect?
So, I'll come up with. We're a finance company, and we finance renewable energy projects, mostly residential solar across the country. Earlier this year, we acquired a summer sales group that heavily recruits out of the local colleges. And so on our main level, we want to have space where those youth, young adults can come and kind of hang out, have a healthy place for them to have some recreational opportunities, pool, ping pong, basketball, pickleball. And we also expect we'll have open space on the first level, which will go up to the second level. We expect to bring in motivational speakers occasionally that will do training, life training for the youth, teach them good financial principles. They're out selling, making some pretty good money for people their age. We want to teach them how to manage that appropriately. So those are things that we're expecting to do. On the office, right now we anticipate we're about 50 employees roughly now. We're expecting over the next couple years we're going to double. The sales group this summer is about 600 salespeople, but they're spread around the country, so they're not all going to be in at the same time. But we're expecting that group would probably double next year and probably have similar growth the following year. So we're excited about where the business opportunities are going for us.
Jack, of this building, if we do a single building with 50,000 square feet, how much of that building will you occupy and what will be out for lease?
We would probably start out by occupying 3.5 floors, and then we would grow into the rest of it, probably over the next 4 years.
So you would occupy the entire building?
We expect that we would eventually occupy the entire building.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason I ask is, I think it's pretty important. We want you know the vision we have there, and we be able to have more restaurants and that kind of things. And the more employees that are in these buildings, if you're going to tell me there was 10 in this building and 10 in that building, that's not going to support the restaurants and the other type of lifestyle we want in that area.
Yeah.
So it's important to us that if we do office building, that it's more than.
The one gentleman
10
that's
people.
got the 12 acres, I know he's proposed about four restaurants on that site. The people that are looking at lot number 5, that's a sports complex, and that'll put
A lot.
a lot of people. It's somewhat like what they've got down in downtown Provo on BYU. It's a complex somewhat like that. You're talking of hundreds of people weekly
Okay.
on those sites, probably more than that, because you have teams that come in and train there. So it'll be a big draw. That would definitely put this on the destination.
Okay, that's exciting to hear. You've seen our plan as well, and you've also
I've
seen.
been on this for 5.5 years.
Right, I recognize you. I know you've been on it, and you've seen that.
Mike's on my Christmas card list.
These have a tendency to me to look like separate individual properties, not
Well,
not
that's what
tied
we're trying to
together
do, because we've got-
cohesively. Did you ever would you ever consider in the future and realize this is not the final plan, but having some flow between the buildings or something as it works its way down?
Mike and I spoke about that this week, because this is we're meeting just mainly for just a subdivision plan
Right.
approval. Correct. He wanted to have the concept of saying what this would look like, and let everybody know that we want to have cross easement across the front, and everybody that we've spoken to knows that we want to do at least a cross easement all the way down the front. Now, we've talked a little bit tonight with these gentlemen here about doing a little bit additional cross easement across the back, or at least be able to create a traffic flow pattern where they can go back and forth between, so that that's just not the only connectivity between it. Because we have one traffic light that's planned at Anderson Boulevard.
Correct.
And of course, that will not go in until UDOT sees that the need is there for it. But if you've come out of any one of these driveways, and of course, the only one you really can come out is those two mixed-use buildings on the end, trying to make a left-hand turn out of there,
It's tough.
it's not bad at sometimes, but it's just gonna continually get worse.
Yeah.
You're gonna need that road to go left and go back into Lindon. So we wanna make sure that anybody coming from the training room has that opportunity to go all the way down to that controlled intersection and make that left turn safely. You know, if you're coming out, you're going right, no big deal. Anybody can go right all day long. Right in, right out's a piece of cake. But that makes it super nice and easy. Now, the site plans, once they're all approved, you know, everybody's gonna play nice together, and it'll look cohesive, and it'll be done well. The buildings, I've seen drawings for all three of these. I take that back, not yours yet. For the two on the end right now, and they're both really good-looking buildings. They're gonna be an addition, it'll be a nice add to the area. We don't want anything ugly going on there. You guys don't. We certainly don't either,
don't.
because it just limits what we can do with the rest of the site.
Thank you.
Well, and if you notice on the zoning requirements, and I'm sure you reviewed those, that it does talk about how the transportation networks have to be set up, and the shared accesses, and the rear accesses, and how that all has to be set up for the zoning requirements. So,
I mean, we've all done that. We've driven
Right.
into a parking lot, and you're
Right.
like, I can't get out back here.
right,
So you gotta turn around and come all the way, to have connectivity back there.
right,
I mean, that's common sense. I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. You don't want somebody turning around and driving back out, just adds more traffic to your
Right.
parking lot. So you wanna be
Yeah.
able to just be able to move from one to the other.
And I think possibly the five-story building would allow more movement, more
Yeah.
possibility
More
for
parking.
movement.
More parking, more everything.
And just to clarify on that building, so the Lindon Village Zone currently only allows you a height of 48 feet.
or, yeah,
Which is how
Yeah,
many buildings,
48.
which is how many,
Four stories, is that right?
So we were just talking briefly before the meeting, the process for looking at possibly an ordinance amendment that, but, there's a lot of research we need to look at. Where does that apply?
Right.
What portions of the Lindon Village Zone? So we may be seeing this in the near future, that we look at an ordinance amendment.
yeah, because I mean, if that's what it requires for us to get the flow and make the area do what we want to do, more of the downtown core feel.
It would definitely put it on the map. People would definitely stand up and take notice with five-story buildings in there. Now, it's like I said to Mike earlier, it's not everybody's cup of tea. You might
Yeah.
have 3 or 4 5-story buildings in there, and everything else maybe, 4 and under, 3 and under.
And I think as far as what we're looking at today, it's just the
Just a
subdivision
flat.
and the plat. Because there's a lot of different opinions with city officials and that kind of thing, as far as whether that's the look and feel they want on that Lindon corridor. So, the Lindon Village, so. And like our report said, this is really preliminary as far as the concepts of, as far as what will go there. It sounds exciting, sounds great, but there'll have to be a lot of work that goes into that to see if that's what Lindon wants, is a 5-story, or if they want to stay with that 4-story requirement. So, and we'd like to welcome Mayor Lundberg here. That's a treat.
I believe the Lindon Village area plan does call out for potential increased heights
Okay,
as a possibility.
okay. Well, thank you for that input.
It's not codified as such, so Mike can probably share more of that, but it was called out in that area plan.
Okay. Well, and those are all things we'll need to look at as far as, if that's what we want in that area, and if that's what we need there, and so, that's great, thank you. do you have any other questions?
Could you clarify on the fitness building, is that for memberships, private, or is that,
The
Can you go
training room
back?
on the end, and that's
Yeah,
actually
that-
the name of the group is the training room. That is membership.
membership, and then they're gonna have some sort of outdoor, is it tennis or pickleball, is that,
I don't know.
Or is that
they
just a
are. It
guess?
looks like that has a plan for it, yeah.
okay. That'd be fun.
There,
They're currently in American Fork, and they want to move over to Lindon and have their own building and everything, so.
That sounds exciting. It's a lot of the things you're doing, the concepts.
Can you give me a little bit more info on the future area? You said there's some people that are, what,
in lot number 4, we've been approached by a
No, I mean,
hotel.
Future of lot one.
This says
of
future
lot-
in the top left
The
corner.
future of lot 1. You mentioned,
You
you
said
briefly
retail.
mentioned something.
It's like a 4-lot little plaza that has businesses that are ancillary to, the health and fitness type stuff.
Oh, okay.
If you look at any one of the Vasa locations, they always have a sun tanning place there.
Mhm.
They've always got other things.
Juice
that-
place.
Sometimes they have,
Things like
sometimes they
that.
have a pizza place too.
Yeah,
We have-
that makes sense, doesn't it?
Vasa,
I've been told by
tanning,
one of my
Papa Murphy's
trainers
Pizza.
that in the past, he goes, sometimes the best thing to do is go get a big greasy hamburger after you work out. You gotta get some protein in there.
Gotta get the energy back. huh?
You earned it, right? You earned it.
Yeah.
Well, would you consider flopping it and putting the retail to the front and the other building to the back?
I think when they get to the site plan, I had that kind of an idea, because they're building that building first.
Mm-hmm.
My thought would be put the retail out front, put the gym
Yeah.
in the back. Yeah. As long as the city's okay with the initial build being in back. But I know the talk was getting buildings closer to the road and limiting the parking in front.
Retail's gonna want a front door seat.
That would be my,
Mm-hmm. So
that would be my opinion as well.
you could secure the retail easier if you had the frontage.
Some of his other plans have shown a two-story office building in the back, too.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay. Maybe with the retail on the bottom?
No, just some of his plans have shown that just a little restaurant in that southwest corner of the gym, and then like a two-story office building in the back was okay.
Okay.
But it's been a couple months since I spoke last with him.
I think they've been more open with you on things like that. I mean, I'm just a real estate agent for the summer. They talk to you more than me.
Well, I like your concept.
It always works together really well. So, one stop. The other guys at the other end, if that comes to be, it's a long ways from being under contract at this point. But what they've proposed is a nice go-along with what they're doing as well. It would make this more of a health and, wellness type of destination on our side, which is definitely gonna put a lot of farm-to-table restaurants and things like that, in the area.
It's exciting.
And we
Thank you.
need more restaurants. We certainly need more restaurants. Anytime you try to go out around here, I mean, at night, it's just crazy.
We need more good restaurants that aren't fast
Yeah.
food. That's what we need.
Yeah, not just the lunch kind,
Yeah.
so.
I know this isn't a public hearing, but I know we have some public here. Ron, do you have questions or comments you'd like to make?
Back on the plat, for the subdivision plat. I think this is great, these guys are doing a good thing. I did have a question when I saw the plat, that it shows, I'll get strong enough glasses to see the plat. On lot 1, it shows a drainage easement,
Yep, that's yours.
but it's not a drainage easement, it's an irrigation easement.
It is. And we've talked about they're having to bury a pipe there to allow the water to go through. If you don't, you said you'd probably give it up if Evergreen closed, because you wouldn't care about it, but you want to be able to have that.
I guess my question is, to me, it doesn't matter what it says on the plat, but I just hate to have people thinking that's drainage, and they drain their parking lots into it, and then it comes over and drains.
No, they know that's irrigation. They know very well.
We sent the engineer the correct title
Okay.
for it, so that he puts that on calls out the easement, the correct.
Right away for irrigation.
And where it's at on the parcel, it'll be in the parking lot area, so dealing with it
Should back on your maps, it should be their way there.
I went and looked at that on the north side and was trying to figure out how water actually gets into that, because it's about a foot plus where you fall the
It's a
water.
wild mess now. Lindon's there, he had a driveway through there and trimmed it, so. You've got a piece of aluminum, you stick in front of that pipe and it backs that ditch way up. And it comes through and then, and I haven't used it the last 2 years because the state went through and when they resurfaced 700 north, they ground our pipe up. So they had to replace that pipe. And so they're gonna do it this year, and boy, the thistles are so wild. That wild mess of Pleasant Grove City is there. And so I've sprayed them and cut them down, but I wonder, do I really wanna wash all those thistle seeds in, or do I wanna let the hay burn up and start over in the spring?
Yeah, it depends on where Evergreen's at in their process. Everything we do here with these 3 lots is gonna change the dynamic for the area. It'll show some activity in the area, and I think it'll change what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're great. I'm here to support them in that. I just have to question them.
We'll make sure you're taken care of on that. I've already talked to their people at length on that piece.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead, we can continue those discussions. Are there any other questions from commissioners? Okay. Well, as far as, like we said, what we're doing tonight is only just it's the minor subdivision approval. So, are we ready for a motion on that? Anyone like to do a motion? You want to, Scott?
Yeah, I'll do the motion. I think it's gonna be an exciting, it's gonna be a good catalyst to start the area off, get something moving there. So I think it's good that we can at least start moving forward on something there. So yes, I will say, I move to approve the applicant's request for minor subdivision for the RAI Plat A with the following conditions, 1 through 6, that are all listed in the staff report. Did we
Okay.
go over those conditions, or should I state them out?
I don't think we've gone over those.
I don't think we
so
went over them, so maybe I
have
should
to-
state them out. I mean, let me read them out since we didn't go over them in detail earlier. The applicant will continue to work with the city engineer to make all final corrections to the plat. Cross-access easements will be noted on the plat so that the Lindon Village ordinance requirement that the transportation network should be interconnected within and between districts will be met. Additionally, networks should provide multiple routes to and from destinations and should consider pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicle users. Number 3, complete or post an adequate improvement completion assurance, warrant and post required assurance for all required public infrastructure improvements. Number 4, prior to plat recording, the applicant will update the final plat Mylar to include all public utilities, easements, and notarized signatures of owner's consent to dedication, and obtain signatures of all entities indicated on the subdivision plat attached hereto. The plans and plat will meet and be constructed per applicable specifications as found in the Lindon City Development Manual and all items on the staff report.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. And I'm sure we'll see you back here. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good luck.
The next item on our agenda, this is our applicant, it's a moderate income housing discussion. Our applicant is Lindon City and Mike Florence. We'll go ahead with that discussion.
I modified the staff report a little bit, so I just got to pull up the updated one. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we had a discussion about this at the last meeting. We've had a general plan committee that we put together, and sorry, this is okay. And, you know, we've spent a couple meetings with them, getting their top priorities for affordable housing. The legislature in 2019, if you remember, they said, hey, here's a list of strategies, you gotta adopt 3 of them. And then last year, or this past legislative session in March, in what is that, January through March, they adopted House Bill 462. It changed the wording on a number of strategies. They now require an implementation plan. They require benchmarks. And so that's kind of just a brief summary. We need to redo a number of our strategies. So what I did is I went through in green and said, I think these are the ones staff are recommending that the Planning Commission and the City Council consider to adopt. And they're similar to ones that have previously been adopted. So, for example, that first one, create or allow for and reduce regulations related to internal or detached accessory dwelling units in residential zones. So we've already done that. That's kind of retroactive. The state's giving us basically a freebie because they mandated we had to allow internal accessory apartments in our communities. And so that's kind of a given one right there. So we're saying, you know, check that one. We already have one.
That one doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah. The second one, eliminate impact fees for any accessory dwelling unit that is not an internal accessory dwelling unit as defined in state code. And so what we're saying is the state already mandated that we can't charge impact fees for internal accessory dwelling units. You cannot. And so we're saying, let's just remove them from detached accessory apartments as well. In the past 5 years, we've only approved 3 detached accessory apartments. The impact fees are about $1,800 for a detached accessory apartment. It wouldn't be a huge financial burden on the city. So that would be another low-hanging fruit strategy to apply, and it would probably incentivize others to maybe, if they didn't have to drop, you know, $1,800 right away with their building permit, that may increase more people wanting to do detached as well.
I just have one question on that, and this goes along with the first item. On that, well, the bullet says, work with the attorney's office to see how a hold harmless provision could be implemented. I think that may make it so that a lot of people would, that have illegal accessory apartments, that we could count those, you know, they would,
Yeah.
if they
They
knew
already
they were
do
gonna
that?
have problems because they indicated they have an apartment, and even if it's not
Except any of
legal.
the construction that's been completed, because we don't know what the plumbing looks like, we don't know what the
Right.
electrical, the HVAC. So it would have to be drafted in a way that, you know, the city and the resident recognize, hey, I didn't get a building permit, but I do have an accessory apartment. So,
Like have an amnesty program so they don't get in trouble.
yeah,
I mean, so they're not charged, you have it now, and now
think
you
the
owe us
city may have-
$1,800.
yeah, and I
I'm-
think the city may have done that in the past once before, I can't remember, years ago, but.
We should.
So,
But wouldn't they have to, I mean, if the city, if they're determined through the city that they have an ADU, wouldn't they have to bring that up to a certain standard?
I mean, typically, yes, you're supposed to get a building permit. You're supposed to make sure you have the parking, you know, that it's habitable, it's not gonna be dangerous, but, so there may be some initial, you know,
Yeah,
life
just-
safety, like, you know,
That's what I mean, as far as,
yeah,
Like a
there's
safety
is the
inspection.
apartment safe?
like maybe,
Yeah, but not some penalty, because they didn't
right, it's
tell
not
us
about,
2 years ago that they had this operational.
yeah.
But-
Like, you're supposed to have a certain size window in a bedroom, you know, for life safety, that you can get out safely. You know, so, you know, we may have to work with residents on that or something, but.
Didn't the legislature sort of wipe out a lot of the regulations that we used to do? Like, for example, it had to be blocked completely off, separate this, separate that. Didn't they wipe out, and then parking, they eliminated some of the parking requirements. So a lot of those they eliminated, and those were probably the catalyst for why people didn't want to come forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't
So-
eliminate the life safety things like the, window and stuff like that, but they did like they reduced parking from two, saying you could only have one parking
Right.
stall, where Lindon City required two.
Right.
And so, yeah, there was some changes like that.
I do feel like we still, I mean.
Well, from a safety
Yeah,
perspective,
that's what I'm saying, is that it does need to have a certain,
So that would be one of our
Level of-
benchmarks to evaluate that in one of our implementation, study that further, what we can do.
right.
I think it would be interesting to ask Brian, if the city has an amnesty, right, what liability does the city have if the apartment's unsafe and yet we're counting it as an apartment, right? I mean, if we
Yep.
bring it
There's a
into compliance, I think we need to at least address the safety issues from a city standpoint, right? From a liability
absolutely.
standpoint, right?
Somebody dies in a
What I'm
fire because they
saying.
can't get out.
Right.
And we said, oh, it's okay, we're counting this as our,
we'd still have a safety inspection, but
right.
we reduce anything else that's onerous, to people for having an apartment.
Yeah.
Well, I like the idea, having built mine back when I had to pay the full impact fee and it's a great idea to encourage more not to
Right.
have all that.
More reporting, but also, yeah, like we said, there needs to be a certain standard that they have to maintain.
So those were the two the city staff are recommending, regarding accessory apartments and impact fees for accessory apartments. The other green ones were these two under other strategies. So the ones in the tables are the ones that came from the general plan committee. These two bullet points are the ones that I said, hey, we ought to look at these as well. So that first one is demonstrate utilization of a moderate income housing set aside from a community and reinvestment agency or RDA agency. So what that is, the city has two redevelopment areas in the city. We've got 700 North, and we've got the new one the RDA just created that's over north of Home Depot. And so the one north of Home Depot, we have to set aside 10% for affordable housing. And that can be used anywhere in the county, or anywhere in the state, actually. And now it's not a large amount, it's probably only about $10,000. The one on 700 North, we have to set aside 5% of that, which is probably around $100,000 to preserve housing. So that's a little more flexible, but it has to be used in that area. And so I think this would be a good strategy to adopt, to be able to use to promote, to use that funds we already have to set aside for affordable housing. And so,
And how would we use those?
Yeah,
What
what do we use the money
Yeah.
for?
How would we use it?
$100,000 does not build a
so
housing structure.
yeah, so couple examples. Let's say, we help with some utilities in the area. They set aside 2 or 3 units that they'll rent, or they'll rent to individuals that meet that 80% or less AMI. And so that's one example. They would deed restrict. They would get our help, and then they would deed restrict. Our help would help make up that gap, maybe that they would lose rent on. Another example. Let's say the county housing was doing a project, and we gave $10,000 to help with that project or something like that. So there's some options that we could use these funds for.
On the second one, if we were to give it to another municipality, do we get credit?
We do. We just have, so every
Right.
October 1st of every year, I have to draft a report, and the council has to approve it, and we send it to the state, and they review what we've done with these strategies. So if we've partnered with, say, another city or another housing agency, we would say we donated 10,000, this is what they accomplished with it.
I kind of like that.
So it's not a lot of money, but,
But if you get a lot of credit,
You get credit, but then what you're saying is then it's not in our city?
which is hard to put it in our city right now.
which is
Right.
very hard to put in our city because of the price of property and real estate.
Right. So we would help another city. Okay,
So you've got Provo Housing Authority, you've got Utah County Housing
Right.
Authority. Some cities, I don't know if any in Utah County, but at least in Salt Lake County, Salt Lake has their own housing authority, West Valley has their own housing authority. So there's groups you can partner with as well. So that would be one of our strategies is to, okay, we've got this funding, how do we now go out and work with some of these different agencies or cities? So, the other one was, I think the planned residential development overlay would probably meet this already, would create or allow for and reduce regulations related to multifamily residential dwellings compatible in scale and form with detached single-family residential dwellings and located in walkable communities within residential or mixed-use zones. As Adam and I were meeting today on these, we think where we've already created that ordinance, we think this could probably suffice with that. Because because we're adopting a planned residential overlay, so that counts as that residential area, we think. We're gonna sit down and maybe talk to Brian and the state to make sure, but, so these would be 4 that we would recommend. As a reminder, 3, we have to adopt at least 3. If we adopt 5, we get increased priority for transportation funds. And so some of these other yellow ones are ones I think you should look at to see if that maybe is our 4th or 5th ones, So one of them, reduce, waive, or eliminate impact fees related to moderate income housing. One thing we could study is, what would that impact be to the city? If, on a single family home, they pay about $8,200, I think it was. $8,200 for impact fees. That's what they pay to the city. For multifamily, that's less mainly because of that. Single family pays $4,500 for a parks impact fee. Multifamily pays $1,500 per unit. So, that may be something we look at as we reduce some of those fees, those impact fees for moderate income housing. So if there's, I've got a couple other yellow ones, if you want to look, this yellow one was, this strategy was zone or rezone for higher density or moderate income residential development in commercial or mixed use zones near transit corridors, commercial centers, or employment centers. So if we wanted to proactively rezone different property for multifamily housing, then that would be a strategy as well.
but then you've got on there that the city doesn't currently have a transit investment corridor.
We
So-
don't, but we have a commercial center, which would be
Okay.
that.
Okay,
Could be Center Street, or could be Stay Street or our Lindon Village zone.
okay, so we could use that,
Yeah.
okay.
One that I read through this, and I know the knee-jerk reaction to item N on this Utah legislative housing strategies, the knee-jerk reaction is no way when it says implement a mortgage assistance program for employees of the municipality. I think if we stop and look at that, if we stop and take a moment to look at that, that really has a variety of benefits to the city, not just helping us to check the box. And I don't know the numbers, I haven't looked into all the great details on it when I read through this, but for example, say the city has quite a few positions that are subject to callback. Police, public works, yourself, the city manager, things like that. So what this might help do, let's say hypothetically speaking, we provided, if you were, and we would have to couch it as a benefit for an employee, if you were a resident of the city of Lindon, we would be willing to pay X, $450 a month, whatever it is, toward your mortgage as long as you're living in the city of Lindon. Well, what that does is, not only does it create longevity for the employee, that now there's pride in not only working for the city, but they also live in the city. there is also the fact that when police call out for mutual aid, we're there in 10 minutes rather than 30 minutes when they're coming from elsewhere. Public Works has a water main break, they're there. So when you look at that, and you would have to do it in a way that would be somewhat onerous on the employee, but as a safeguard, you could actually do, you show us each month, you submit for reimbursement I paid my mortgage on this property. It's in the city of Lindon. This is where I live. And each month, this employee could file it. And now, I think initially, I don't know what the number is in the city, but I would venture to say that there's not many city employees living here in the city of Lindon, because it is a fairly costly place to live. So maybe over the future, this might have a bigger fiscal impact, but initially, it might have a fairly nominal impact when you look at how many employees actually live here that are actually within the city limits. So to do that, we would encourage that longevity. No more people, like for the police department and other places, jump into the next city for another $10 an hour. They might choose to stay in Lindon as a city employee because they live in Lindon. I mean, so that's just my 2 cents. I don't know if we just overlook, if we just quickly, it's easy to discard that one. But it is a way to possibly derive several benefits from this strategy.
And didn't we look at that a few years back?
We looked
as
at it
far
in
as with Ivory
2019.
Homes?
I don't know about Ivory. I know we as when we adopted our moderate income housing plan in 2019, we brought that up as an option, and the council said no, but.
Well, it seems like we looked at that and kind of worked through some of those things with on the Anderson Farms. Is that right, Carolyn? And
Well, that
then it
Talked
seems
about it.
like Ivory decided they didn't want to go ahead with that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Sharon, you're recalling, that's my recollection as well.
Uh-huh.
They wanted a density bonus in exchange for that council.
Okay, and I couldn't remember why we didn't go ahead with
They were talking
that.
about doing some deed restricted,
Right.
something that be deed restricted. We could designate, what type of people could qualify for those.
Mhm.
And the type of structures they wanted to build. Some council members weren't really keen on the density bonus they wanted in exchange beyond
Okay.
what had already been agreed upon in the development agreement.
And it seemed like they were looking at police officers or something and teachers I mean, there were some categories like that.
There's some examples that, Park City is doing it now, so if you're a medical
Mm-hmm,
person, city employee, first responder.
mm-hmm.
Ivory had partnered, they had one example of that, I believe, in South Jordan, West Jordan, somewhere thereabouts, they had a few like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seemed like they'd had some experience with it before, so.
Yeah,
it's,
but this doesn't really say deed restrict. I think this sort of says mortgage, mortgage assistance. So I guess that could apply to other places within the city rather than a place that we're actually developing. But once and again, it would be an employee benefit.
Yeah, and I think one of the questions the council also had in that scenario was, how do you really make sure that that property doesn't get flipped and brought up
Right.
to market value, that purpose stays, has longevity, because the city doesn't really want to have to manage
yeah,
that process and how the deeds are happening. That was another question, I know.
yeah, I
They didn't
remember
have a
that.
good- They didn't have a good example of maybe how that could
So anyway, mortgage
Yeah.
assistance wouldn't necessarily apply to those type of properties. The onus would fall back on the employee to monthly submit for a reimbursement if they in fact are living in the city of Lindon.
Yeah, I understand
working.
what you're saying. I just brought that up because we had looked at.
I
similar
remember
type
there was some
things.
discussion, I know that died down there, where this didn't clarify it in that way. So that's why
Right.
when I saw this, it was just sort of general, and so I just want to throw that out as something that there might be a benefit. I mean, I don't know, some people might say that's unfair, but when the city derives a benefit on several aspects.
Yeah, no, it's certainly worth looking at.
Just wanted to have a discussion about this. We're gonna have the same discussion with the city council next week. And then the plan is to bring this back to you. I've got a whole calendar, because I have to have this adopted by October 1st. And so we'll bring this back to you in a few weeks for your recommendation on these strategies. I've got to update some numbers in the entire plan itself, and then have you make a recommendation on this, I think in August, have it go to the city council in September for adoption. Are you okay with these, at least these 4 green ones that I've identified as at least staff recommendations?
Right, those seem pretty straightforward, and I think the other ones that we indicate, if we can make those apply, if we can make the Norton property and those revisions, those developments comply with the 4th, and by all means, I think we should go ahead and pursue those as well.
And I didn't get to the last bullet point, I apologize, I skipped over it. I think this is a good strategy, but I don't know what, how the rest of the city feels. But basically what you do is you give a density incentive. And so, I've seen in other communities, well, they'll give a 5 or 10% bonus of density. So if someone's doing 50 units, then they'll give them a density of 5 units, or they'll give them a bonus density of 10% so they can add 5 more units. And then they dedicate by deed, those 5 units that will be set aside for affordable housing. And so,
That was similar to what Carolyn was saying.
Is that something
Ivory
the
wanted.
city would have to manage, or is that?
no,
No.
it's just a deed recorded on the title of the property. And so every time they go to rent, they have to make sure they have 5 units that are available for moderate income housing.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
The thing that I like about that is that disperses the affordable housing so that it's in, kind of in between all different kinds of income levels, and it kind of spreads that out rather than having affordable housing all in one spot.
Mhm.
So that's the thing I like about that.
Yeah, or you're not just creating, an entire building of affordable housing. You've
Right,
got,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah, you've got 5 units mixed in with market rate housing.
Right, yeah.
And the unit number may change, those 5 units may change all the time. They could be on the first floor, second and third, then next time they're on the 4th and 5th, whenever.
Well, I just think the impact would be less, and it would be more of a mixed community. So, that's just kind of some thoughts on that.
Is median income, I know initially when we began having this discussion, we were somewhat concerned that median income was calculated based on the county, which went all the way down, and there was such a wide variety of, but now with Silicon Slopes really developing, that should be bringing, isn't that raising the income up? I mean, because we're paying a lot more higher paying jobs.
It is, yeah. Yeah, in the last 3 years, the area median income has increased quite a bit. I think it's up to about 76 or 77,000 for Utah County. And so this is providing housing for someone that makes about 61,000, right around there. So,
So this is just a discussion.
discussion.
So unless there is, concerns you want to bring up with Mike before it goes to city council, then.
okay, so move forward on the green ones and
What you wanted tonight was our
then,
input.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So do you want input on, like the last one, to preserve existing or new moderate income housing? I'm okay with that. I mean, we might get some heat on that because the anti-density side of people, 5 more houses, but I think what we have to sell is the fact that we only need to do 3 of these, but if we can do 5 of these, then our transportation funds go up, which which we're gonna need,
Yeah.
which we do need.
it doesn't guarantee us the funds, but it gets us on a priority list.
Right. So, I mean, it's something we have to sell if we were to
Yeah.
choose to do this, because this one will probably get a little kickback because of the density.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Thanks for putting this together, and I, of course, heard most of this because being in the general plan meetings, but
Yep.
You put a lot of work into it. Appreciate it. Okay, I guess we're on to the planning commissioner's reports. If there is anything any of you have to bring
I just have a
up?
question for Mike. What is the current requirement for an accessory dwelling unit parking? It's one spot, right?
For internal.
And where does that have to be?
They're supposed to designate one spot behind the front setback.
Okay, so there's one spot behind. Okay.
Behind the front setback or behind the front property line?
Behind the front setback of the home.
So the parking lot,
So-
So,
it would have to be
So
30
30
something.
feet, 30 feet, so it has to be behind 30 feet.
Side yard or in a garage.
Okay.
So could someone designate a spot in their garage as a,
mhm,
that would be fine?
that would.
But only if, I believe, only if it's like a 3-car garage, you know. So if it's just a 2-car garage, then we're gonna assume that those 2 spots are going to be for your family. But if it's a 3-car garage, then we can assume that one spot.
But how do we regulate that third spot is, oh, this is a parking spot, and then the door never opens and it becomes a junk heap? And
I
it's
don't
not a
think we
place.
can
I mean,
regulate
yeah,
that.
I
don't
mean,
think
that
we
they've
can.
provided it, but then they've basically immediately negated it.
Right, I mean, I've seen lots, you know, where they have, it's, you know, the part's gated, right? And of course, it's there, but it's never used as the accessory apartment. I just wondering what the current regulation was. And that's one spot either inside a garage if you have a spot or 30, or behind the
Behind
30
the
feet.
setback.
Okay.
I know there was discussion with Anderson Farms was sort of not, that is a designated area, we're not allowing the ADUs. However, they were no longer actively discouraging people as they sell the homes, discouraging people. Was anything ever resolved there? I mean, we say no, but I think you're gonna start seeing them pop up there because they no longer tell when they sell them, that you can't have a ADU in your basement.
Yeah, we probably get 1 call a week about that from someone down at Anderson Farms asking about doing an ADU.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we've reached out to the real estate agents, but,
And you're telling them, no, you can't.
right. But they're probably not passing that information on.
Yeah. That was,
So if they go ahead and do it anyway, then, I mean, is it complaint driven or what?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you act on it if someone complains about it.
There's already quite a few out there. Some of them are retrofitting after they have even planted to it.
They what, Karen?
They're retrofitting their basement, cutting the door.
yeah.
So it's challenging. Ivory came to the council asking for one of the phases to go ahead and actually allow the development agreement to have a specific type of home built that is built with the whole ADU concept as part of the structure, and the council voted it down. They just felt like Ivory was given narrower street profile
Yep.
already, and so it's, you know, and smaller lots, and so.
Too much congestion.
The
Yeah.
structure just isn't there
They
for
would
it.
struggle to get parking.
But,
That would really
you know,
impact parking.
that's always the challenge citywide is how do we help this situation where we know there's a lot of ADUs that are under the radar. And I think a lot of neighbors don't want to be the one that's, you know, calling their neighbor out. And
Well, that's true.
so how can we eliminate barriers like you're all considering to help those that could be in the light and count towards our income, moderate income housing, that's really important. But yeah, where they really aren't supposed to be happening, that's where enforcement, I guess, would be an issue at some point.
Okay.
I know staff has given letters to some locations in the past.
But what,
I know, but were they nice? Did they think they were in trouble and they didn't want to respond? I mean, this is where I think we could did a citywide amnesty program and said, hey, if you've got an ADU, we'll give you a free safety inspection and you'll have it on the books and everybody's happy. Can we do that?
So that's why I said we need to work through our city attorney's office. and-
Okay.
Yeah, and the hard thing about that is you've got all these very conscientious, you know, landlords, you know, that have obeyed all the rules and made sure their apartment was
Paid their
just
impact
exactly
fees.
the codes and everything required by the city, and then to have everyone else not have to do any of that, and so somehow that's got to be balanced.
It does.
Okay.
A small fee for a safety inspection or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
If we want them to
reality,
get counted.
yeah, reality, a big percentage of those would fail. And so they're reluctant, even if they have an
Right.
amnesty program, to come forward.
True.
I wonder. Is there any grant money available through the state or something just toward helping these people possibly put larger windows? Or, I mean, the state has a lot of stuff set aside for, they're trying to do a lot for that. Is there any grant money that we could somehow funnel to these individual homeowners to?
I bet they would say that's up to the individual cities.
Well, that, oh, no.
Well, I mean, it's worth
Yeah,
looking
the
into,
cities
but
can't
I
afford
would
to do
bet.
it, but if the state has, the state's one mandating all this stuff.
You just have every ward executive secretary in town.
I guess that's something you could research out.
Apartments and
Okay.
send it in.
Um,
You'd have it
I
done.
understand that Renee and Steve have been reappointed for another 3 years to serve on the commission, so that's a neat thing. That's really good. So we're really happy to hear that. Does anyone else have anything they want to bring up this evening?
I'd just like to apologize for the several meetings I've
I was
missed.
gonna say,
I mean,
you've been a
this schedule-
stranger.
Planning is always, and I feel even worse for the general planning committee, because he always sends out the thing, what dates can you be there? I can be there this day and this day, and it's always the other day that I'm not here, you know, that I'm out of town. Doing a lot of traveling, I apologize, actually have another big trip planned for August and September.
Oh, wow.
So, we're gonna go do it all, all the northern states, so I apologize for not being here, but
You're having a good time.
So when's our next meeting?
So we have our next meeting's on, yeah,
August?
our next planning commission meeting is on August 9th, but we have another joint general plan meeting on July 27th.
7th. Joint.
6 PM on the 27th.
Yep. So that night, we'll just finish up, we'll talk briefly about land use, we'll talk quite a bit about parks and transportation.
Okay. I'll be there for that one.
And on another fun note, thank you so much, all of you, for your service. You all are amazing. And last year Renee brought up something, and I think it's time to do this. You guys don't have an official shirt. We need to make you official.
You know what? We did years ago, and that was fun. And I kept it for quite a while, just because I thought it was neat, but.
So we'd love, Keith and I are working with parade stuff and hopefully trying to get Big Betsy right now. If we can get Big Betsy, how would you all feel about participating and helping? Do you know what Big Betsy is?
Yeah, the flag.
The big flag
For the parade.
or follow the flag. It's a big, huge flag. It takes a large group of people, so if you and your
Family.
families wanted to help with Big Betsy or be in the parade, we'd love to have you in the parade at some point, wondering what ideas. And I'd love to get you all some shirts, so as you're out in the community, you can show your service, and especially during the days. So, first of all, parade, how do you feel about that?
What day is it? Is that the Friday night one, the 5th?
It'll be Friday, yes, August 5th,
5th of August.
yes.
I'm okay with that. The only flip side to that is that is a parade all of our family enjoys. Of course, they would think that was,
Bring 'em with
yeah.
you.
Bring
they
your
would-
grandkids, help them
Bring your
carry the
grandkids
flag.
with you.
Yeah.
Mike and I did it last
They
year, we
like
pretty much carried that flag by ourselves.
They love to watch it, and Lindon Day's parade has so much candy that they.
There's a lot of good candy.
You-
I
It's
don't
not
know.
mandatory, but we
No,
just, she's
but
telling
it-
us now so we can get planning ahead to
Yeah.
have people help carry it.
So we
Yeah,
have the youth.
that would be fun to carry Big Betsy,
We
though.
have the youth council, 13 kids, they're amazing, they're so sharp. So the youth council would probably help with that as well. Their signature color is red, and I meant to bring one of their shirts tonight. And then our Lindon Youth Police Academy youth, their color is royal blue. And so just curious if you guys have shirt color you would like that we could say is your color, and I need to get all your sizes.
I could send out an email.
Light blue.
For the sizes.
Light blue, black,
Light blue.
Black might be hot.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The city council already has this color,
Oh, shoot.
and
It's still a good color.
yes.
Yeah.
City council will be this color, and we're probably gonna do the red to match our youth council. They've had a white in the past with the white, it's probably, their white shirts are probably looking tired now. They're pretty
So you guys are gonna wear a different color this year, is that what you're saying?
Blue and, we'll probably have blue and red.
Oh, okay.
What about gray?
Sure.
I like a tan color.
Ew.
Tan?
No, gal, we need something a little more flashy, we gotta stand out, you guys, come on.
Lime green?
Well, what do you say? What color are you saying?
Nobody has navy blue or,
Navy blue.
Navy blue's good,
Yeah,
like a Nike shirt, navy blue.
yeah, that'd be fine.
like a polo shirt, is what you're saying?
And for the ladies, do you want to have the same placket with the buttons in the front, or do you want to have a Johnny collar?
I want that kind,
Downy color would look better.
yeah. Do you like that kind?
Okay.
And unfortunately, I will be out of town on the
We'll still
second.
get you a shirt, because when you're serving in
Okay,
an official capacity, it'd be great to have you
okay.
represent.
So that's really fun.
It's just a small token of thanks from
Yeah.
Mike will be great, and Mike and Mary, if you want to get into. I have one, we don't have a color for our but I do. Yeah, if you want to pitch in, if you want to pipe in on a color for planning commission.
Okay,
You can join
I'll send out that email tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. But thank you again.
But that's really
Thank
fun.
you so much.
Yeah, that's fun.
Thank you to Renee for putting that bug in my ear last year.
The Big Betsy? Or,
the shirt.
It'd be nice to have a shirt. Kelly, I'll just-
Well, you were
'Cause they had-
carrying Big Betsy
I
last
did
year,
carry
weren't
Big
you?
Betsy,
Yeah.
and I had to get a Linden Rec shirt on, we wore Linden Rec shirts. But the city council had shirts, because you guys did the ice cream night, and, you know, the different events they were helping at. That was nice for the community to know who the city council was. I think it's a nice identifier.
And and like
You don't
you
need to run and
said,
hide, we do a good job, come on.
Yeah, I would be willing, I think it would be fun to go to something like that where we're available.
If you have a needed size, tell Carolyn, right?
I think I'll have Mike coordinate with.
Collect the sizes,
You guys-
okay.
You guys talk some more about, for sure, the color you want. And sizes.
Okay,
Okay,
that
thanks.
would be really fun.
Do you have an opinion, Rob?
No, I'll go. You don't have a favorite color?
I'm glad it's not red, I'm not partial to red.
Well, see, the color we're talking about now, that's good with any, almost any color.
Yeah,
slash.
navy's great.
Council and youth council and some reds.
Yeah, and I don't want to do black, it's just, well, of course, navy's about as hot, but I like navy better than black. Yeah. Do we have a color palette to choose from?
It's not good.
I could send an email with some shirt pictures.
That would be
How about
Yeah.
that color right there, green?
Yeah.
You like
Want to do
that?
a forest green? Do forest green.
I look good in all colors.
Do you?
So-
I see.
Which color
have
makes
no
your
problem.
eyes pop?
Yeah. Okay, are we done?
Well, thanks, Carolyn, for being here with us. That was fun.
Might be a good one.
What?
I'm not opposed to green either.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Helping the city grow.
Thanks for being with us, though. That was fun, and thanks for all the really good things you're doing.
Oh,
We appreciate all your hard work as mayor.
700 North's starting to come alive. Exciting.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if Mike reported to you our trip to the Global Retailer Show, ICSC in Las Vegas, and so.
Yeah.
Trying to chase down some good restaurants and other retailers.
The real estate guy here mentioned they almost got some, they're working on something on the south side? Is something coming together on the south side?
They've
There's
got,
a group called Evergreen Development that
Mhm.
has
Under
the south side
contract.
under contract. But they're working on their site plan and stuff,
How much of it?
all of it,
Oh, the entire south side.
yeah.
Cool.
but they've got it under contract, what did you tell me until? Yeah, they've got to figure it out by then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've given us a, what you say that?
What?
They gave us a not
Not
so,
the ICSC one, are you not counting that?
Mhm.
Okay, that's,
They asked Mary and I to give them feedback on that one the other day.
we told them that is
And
never
we-
gonna fly.
We destroyed it,
just
so.
supposed to- Okay, good.
So it's under contract, but nothing valuable's coming out, nothing good's coming out of it.
Yeah, like they didn't have a, like we want a town center and
Right.
they put a pickleball court in there.
What?
And called it a town center and, and so it
Really?
just, feedback like that, so.
But I'm sure they'll get there.
How do you feel about them as a company?
They've done some cool stuff in Colorado. They had some cool restaurant, designs and stuff they've done out there. We've kind of just been dealing with their multifamily guy. And so it's been a little hard to figure out exactly what commercial they're gonna bring or want to bring and what interest they got from that show as well. So I requested a meeting with their commercial guys a couple weeks ago and they haven't quite responded yet.
So are they trying to have the multifamily lead the commercial rather than the other way around, or?
No, they show a lot of commercial on there. They just,
Okay,
but I don't know how,
We don't want it to be just standard strip mall look.
yeah.
Which is
no,
Good.
well, that's interesting.
Start.
Yeah.
I don't know if you wanted the other acreage on Whitefish Lake is there. Mark Wilden is now exploring, putting in, doing like an indoor tennis racket club.
Oh, is that Mike Weldon who's talking about that other lot?
Oh,
It's very preliminary, he hasn't presented anything, it's just.
Like that one, that Sun Rock one that's down off I-15.
Yep.
That'd be cool.
It would really, because we already are, there's so many things to do there as far as the beyond, the virtual reality, the.
Yeah,
there's a
activities.
lot- There's a lot of activities, so if it can continue to draw that type of thing, that this will really be a core for, in the whole valley for entertainment.
And St. John Properties picked up the triangle piece there along I-15. Right there, you go down 700 and you pass.
Walmart?
Triangle shape.
What's,
Right next to the freeway. So our line should, if it had been a straight line, it would have been part of Lindon, but it jags. So St. John's was over in Vegas working the gamut as well. We sat down with them and chatted with them, so they have plans, they say, for potentially, definitely more retail, maybe even a town center kind of feel there as well, which is a little bit of a
So are we talking on that?
yeah, show us that little triangle you're talking about.
This area here. St. John's property bought that property.
They acquired it after Centric Health pulled out.
But isn't that
Go in
PG?
closer.
Or is that not?
Yeah.
It's PG.
Oh, okay, so it's just adding more to that region. that will help draw for us.
They do definitely plan a housing component, but they're also drive more retail restaurant into that project there as well.
We hope that's a nice development to spur ours on. Okay. Well, Mike, did you have anything additional for us?
Nope, just a reminder about the 27th, so it'll be a good meeting with Planning Commission, City Council, General Plan Committee, so.
And the vendor, too? We had the meeting with the,
With Landmark Design.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep, they'll be leading the discussion that night.
Right.
and might be here. I don't know. Okay, good.
Okay, well, thank you so much for all your work, especially on this affordable housing. I know you put a lot of work into that,
Yeah.
so to bring us up to state mandates.
I'd love to get the 5. Give
Yeah.
us the flexibility, a little bit of breathing room, so we're not struggling every year to.
Yeah, and they've got a new director, and she's pretty
Aggressive?
aggressive. So she's going to go through each plan for each city, and if you don't meet their requirements, she sends it back. You've got 60 days to readopt a new strategy or update your strategy, and then send it back to her, so.
She sounds like an overlord. Got to watch for the overreach. That's not okay.
so.
Yeah.
This mandating stuff, come on.
Yeah, the only problem is so hard, I wish we could somehow educate the community, because the community doesn't understand any of this, and they just say, oh, density, or, oh, and they just hard no to it. They don't understand the complexities of funding
Well-
from the state or requirements from the state. It's really tough.
But like Carolyn and I were talking though, and Mike and Mary, I don't know who all I've talked to, but that's one of the reasons why this general plan committee is a good thing, is because it is from all over the city, and you've got representatives and city and community, strength from all over the community, and they are a part of those discussions.
Yeah, that's good. So hopefully they can.
And so it makes it so that that goes back to those people they represent. So that's a good thing. So, well, let's adjourn the meeting then. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.
Seconded.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Well, thanks to all of you. They said about 8 o'clock it might rain tonight. Wouldn't that be nice?
A little bit of water.